As always, or I shouldn't say as always, because it has been a minute, boys, hasn't it? Yeah. How does it feel to be back in the Skype, all ready to go for our return to football season? How's it feel?
It's good that football is back.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we are back. It's nice. It's great to have some football back. It's great to see you guys too. I was just chatting with you guys before this about that. I was like, it's been a hot second. It seems like it's like been since like July 4th almost. Like almost a month. I feel like since we've recorded an episode. And this is gonna be, like you said, real casual tonight. Just mostly going to go over some of the stuff that we're seeing in this game and some other stuff that's been happening over the last couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm stoked to get back into the swing of things. I was just thinking about it the other day. I was like, dang, before we know it, we're going to have those episodes after Monday and Thursday night football that we're going to be doing, and it's going to be back into full swing. I mean, we're like, what is it, like a month away? When's the first game? Is it like the 8th or the 9th of September? So we're like a month and a couple of days away.
Right, exactly. And like, I've always noted the month, like as soon as August begins, that's as soon as I start to get in my fantasy research. Like, I'm going knee deep, I'm going head deep, like head first into the research full time. I've got the podcasts out, but yeah, it feels good. Good to be back with the gang. Mitch, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. I mean, it's been a while. Granted, everybody deserves a summer vacation, and we've been working at OT behind the scenes. I mean, get ready for some graphics on the Instagram because we got plenty of stuff brewing. Obviously, the power rankings are still coming, and potentially some fantasy rankings coming. We'll see.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's like we said, or like Tyler said, it's going to be more on the casual side because, to be completely honest with you, I'm sitting in a living room with like 8 different people because, I mean, football is back, so, you know, you got to bring everybody together. The more the merrier. So, feels good to be back. But, yeah, let's dive into some of the training camp highlights coming out, and we'll dive into some of the teams that we got on the slate right here. Currently, we're all watching the game as we have our eyes glued to the TVs above our computer screens. But yeah, we're going to do a bunch of good stuff today, and then also we threw it out for questions. You can go ahead and throw questions into the chat on YouTube. You can go ahead and throw questions into the chat on Twitch, or you can drop it in the Instagram. So feel free to do that. And let's dive right into it, boys. All right. Wait, now. They're about to put the. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
Sorry. I'm a little ahead of you guys.
I gotta watch the game.
But,
yeah, you are.
I have to.
Typical Raiders picking up the Chargers scraps, and now this guy's doing pretty well. He's probably going to torch us when he plays.
Is that Nick Mullins?
Go to our Instagram.
Yeah,
dude.
He's on
low key. He's not a bad backup, man. Like, he provided very good minutes for San Fran.
No, I agree. I mean, Nick Mullins, they've said in San Fran for a while that he could start. You know?
Yeah, I mean, he's just like, out of all the other backup options in the NFL, he's definitely not the worst. Oh, whoa, what a block.
Wow.
Oh, Amir Abdullah, former Viking.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did finally cop a commie shirt.
A commie shirt. All right, so question right off the back I have. So you guys have Jonathan Taylor going 1-1, right?
I mean, yeah,
no?
Undeblated. No?
Okay, that was going to be my next question is where, like, you so you have McCaffrey at 2? Kane?
Personally, if I have the first 2 picks, I'm not taking McCaffrey.
I think I put Taylor over in my official rankings, but I am taking McCaffrey because of the risk, because I'm willing to take the risk. I know he's a much higher potential, and what he's dealt with is not necessarily things that should keep popping up.
You know, I've seen some mocks where, like, guys in, like, this is probably more in 10-team leagues rather than 12 teams, but I've seen guys getting McCaffrey and Saquon on the same team, and I'm like, man, there is so much risk there, but there's so much upside as well if those guys stay healthy.
I'm not touching.
I love Saquon.
Now, I mean, I guess I'm kind of biased because I've always been one of those guys that's very injury scared. I really stay away from the guys.
You go with the safe route.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the safe route, and that usually gets you pretty good in fantasy because you win your league not through you can't win your draft, but you can lose it. Like that's something that Matthew Barrett always says.
First round.
Like, yeah, you need to. I'm not taking a home run on Christian McCaffrey this year, even if in the first 3 picks. I mean, let's try to think about who the first 3 would be. I mean, you've got.
I mean, after the first 2, it's totally up for grabs because you've probably got like a plethora of guys. Like you can go wide receiver, you can go with one of the other running backs like Henry or Cook. Then you can look into like Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson as well at 3. So there's tons. It's crazy to think that the Vikings could have the number 1 offense this year, and it makes me salivate. But
I do think that there is potential for Justin Jefferson to have the best year of fantasy wide receiver. Like
this is my thing. This is my thing with the Vikings that everybody is underselling and nobody's really talking about is that Kevin O'Connell is there.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is going to be a
very.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Zimmer,
and I texted you guys this, and I was like, kind of.
It might have been Madison a little more.
Yeah.
Which honestly, if you're buying low on Madison, that's amazing. But neither running back. Well, Cook's probably still going to be a little better. But Madison, you're going to get a steal for at that point.
Well, they're both going to be incorporated into the passing game, which is something that Zimmer very rarely did.
Cook was a lot of slot reps initially. Hey, surprising to me.
And if you can, I mean, Irv Smith just had surgery, but he's expected to be ready for the first game. But if you could have a combination on the line of like Thielen, Jefferson, Cook, and Irv Smith or Osborne. Osborne's been burning people at practice, but that like I was kind of joking about it when I said it, but I also wasn't. Like Kirk Cousins could be a dark horse MVP. Like with this offensive minded coach, like I'm not gonna say he will win MVP by any means, but I mean, what did he have last year? Like 33 touchdowns to 7 picks or something like that. Like he's always had a good touchdown to interception ratio. He's always yards. Can he come up in the big moments? His biggest.
I mean, dark horse is definitely the word for it. Even if you throw like $1 on it, you could probably win 100.
Who's gonna have the better season, Aaron Jones or AJ Dillon?
Oh,
fantasy wise, Aaron Jones because he's wide one at this point.
Seriously, you're not wrong there, Mitch.
I mean, Aaron Jones is going to get all that passing
Dillon
work.
is going to come in touchdown, but in terms of points per game, Aaron Jones is probably going to have like 5 catches per game because he is actually
and think about it, like I was also thinking about this the other day, like when you go to think about who like Aaron Rodgers is going to give somebody a whole ton of work. Like it's fucking Aaron Rodgers. Like we're forgetting
Robert Tonyan.
Ooh, really? I think it's going to be a lot of Aaron Jones. Like I think it's going to be like probably 60% of Aaron Jones in the receiving game, and then I think it's going to be I like what I'm hearing about Romeo Doubs. That was one of our topic points that we were going to talk about later on, and he's got a lot of potential there.
Let's talk about it now.
Yeah, let's talk about it now. Go ahead, give your take on Robert Tonyan, man, Robbie T.
Dude, I know he got hurt at the end of last year, tore his ACL. I think we were watching all of that live.
It was the Cardinals game. He tore his ACL.
I thought it was it the Cardinals or was it the Lions Monday night game?
I remember it was at Jaden's that game. It was a bigger game, so we.
That was the interception.
Thursday night. I'm pretty sure it was a Thursday night game.
It
was a bigger game.
Both teams, I think, were undefeated, or one. The Packers had one loss, and the Cardinals were undefeated.
Yeah, the Cardinals were undefeated. That's what it was.
But Romeo Doubs, yeah. Romeo Doubs, I watched him. This is bad that I watch Mountain West games, but I watched a couple of Nevada games. I mean, Carson Strong was a big prospect, and Romeo Doubs. I mean, he had a couple 100-yard games. I mean, some electric performances. Now, obviously, you're going up against Mountain West competition, so it's not that great. But like, he was once again, this is my favorite term. He showed flashes of being an NFL wide receiver. So like, I'm not gonna say that he's gonna come in and just absolutely dominate, but like, he could be a viable fantasy option. Yeah, he could. On your bye week, he could sub in as like a wide receiver 3 or flex in some deeper leagues for sure.
At worst, he's their MVS now. Ooh. That guy got cut.
I'm not sure why people aren't trying to buy into Green Bay's next weapon. Like, that's not like Alan Lazard is going so late in drafts right now, and I can't understand why. Like, because whoever Aaron Rodgers is gonna. Oh, we got a turnover.
Oh, turnover.
Yeah. That guy's cut.
Hey, Mitch. Pause your TV if you can for like 10 seconds.
My issue with the Packers and Lazard and everything is the first year we saw Rodgers with a 4. What did he have?
All right, play. All right, press play now.
Why was he ahead of us?
It just kind of worries me because they've already been so run dominant before when it was Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones on the field that I think they might just revert to that first year of Matt LaFleur. And they still they went to the NFC Championship game that year against the 49ers when the Chiefs and Niners played. And
bro, they had Devontae Adams.
Or up and down, Rodgers was washed at that point because they just weren't throwing the football. But they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. It's not really a worry for them to worry about the run game first. If you have a 2-headed monster in the backfield and can just do dump passes all game, Rodgers doesn't necessarily have to throw for 40 touchdowns again.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think Aaron Jones is going to be an elite option in that offense this year. Also, a guy that we haven't talked about a lot is Christian Watson, who's currently out of training camp right now. But, I mean, we were talking about small school wide receivers. I mean, Romeo Doubs, small school wide receiver. Like, Green Bay seems to have a knack for turning guys like that into next-level talent. And also, another thing is about Romeo Doubs.
Oh, and Kenyon Drake comes up holding his wrist.
Ooh.
It was his ankle.
Is Kenyon Drake draftable in fantasy this year?
I mean, yes, because well, who did they draft? Didn't they draft somebody?
Who, the Raiders at running back? Zamir White.
Oh, yeah.
Zamir looked good in this game. I am so worried that Josh McDaniels is going to incorporate that committee of running backfield that he did in New England, that it is going to be Josh Jacobs and Zamir White 50-50 because White has looked good.
And Josh Jacobs will have some kind of injury that nags on. That'll keep him out like a game or two. So, like, whoever's the backup is... What were you going to say, Mitch?
I mean, he had turf toe last year. That's not necessarily something that is easy to get rid of and is easy to show back up. I really like Zamir White as like a very deep sleeper. I'm not I am avoiding Raiders players at all costs on running back that aren't receivers, but I really like Zamir White for the future. And if you have like a late round dynasty pick, he is worth it.
Speaking of running, go ahead, Tyler.
I was just going to say, speaking of Raiders receivers, how many 1,000-yard receivers will they have this year?
Dude, hot take? Yeah, 1.
The other 2.
I have a 1. That's what I'm going with.
Okay. Because I didn't know, because Waller is included in that as well.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
1.
Just under. I think the other 2 will be right around 900.
I agree. It's a good question, though. Good question.
So who do you think is the 1,000-yard receiver? You think it's Devontae?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I don't think the other guys have bad years.
Is that Zamir White?
This is rough.
We have not talked.
The O-line's rough, and I think that Renfro has a lot more options than Waller has, and I think Renfro is more likely to get the 1,000 yards than Waller, but I don't think either gets there.
Dude, the Raiders should play their backup lineman. I mean, they look good right now.
They should play White because he is going off right now.
I mean, it's against back. Well, is Walker in? I don't even think Walker's in right now, is he? No, they've got a bunch of back.
But, I mean, speaking of the Raiders, we have had a lot of debate recently in our group chat about the fate of Derek Carr this year, which I am personally all in on the Derek Carr hype train. I think he's going to be in. I'm not saying he's going to win it. I think he has a very similar season to Matt Stafford of last year. Now, am I saying that they go to the Super Bowl and they win it? No, but statistically during the regular season, I think Derek Carr has a very similar season. I don't know if he gets it done in the playoffs just because of the inexperience, but I want to hear your thoughts on that, especially with a guy like Josh McDaniels running these weapons in this offense. Come on now.
So here's going to be my bounce back question to that, because I believe Stafford had 5,000 yards last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So if Derek Carr has 5,000 yards, if Derek Carr has 5,000 yards and you're saying only one guy gets 1,000 yards, how's that possible? Who are the other yardage? Who else is there to catch?
No, I was thinking about that. That's why I brought that up, because I was trying to think if he really does put up the kind of season that I think he can, then somebody else has got to catch 1,000 yards.
If he throws for 5,000 yards, I think two guys at least have to get 1,000.
No, 100%.
Barring injury.
I think.
Okay, you brought it up, not me.
Oh wow, that was terrible. Who was 84? Oh, Keelan Cole. Forgot he was there.
Oh my God.
So is he their third?
He switched teams in this game.
I'm also surprised to find that.
Well, no, he was on the Jets.
I'm also surprised. I originally thought that Darren Waller was going to be zeroed out, or not Darren Waller. I thought originally that Hunter Renfrow was going to be zeroed out of the offense. But did you guys? I don't not that this has much to do. I mean, it does have a lot to do with it because of team chemistry and everything. Did you see that video of Hunter Renfrow buying the cheap Uber for?
Oh, was that Chase On? That was Chase On. Good to see Chase On actually putting in some work. He's a guy that could get, new place could do something, because he was with the Cowboys, I think, and he was awful.
Him and Arden Key are going to be rotational pieces for this team, Jags. But I think Renfrow is kind of the safety valve still, because he doesn't really run routes more than 10 yards. And with that offensive line, after Denzel Good retired, you have one notable offensive lineman in Cole Miller. And you have just the left tackle. You got to hope for within 2 seconds of passing almost. Borderline what Ben Roethlisberger has been doing the past 4 years. But I think Renfrow is due for just enough to make him still recognizable and worth that contract, because they him instead of the.
Again,
what was Renfro's contract?
he just got signed to an extension. Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah,
I believe it's 3 years.
A year.
Yeah.
I think it's 3 years. What's the AAV there though? Is it 12 mil a year, 11 mil a year?
I think it was 16 because he is so designated as opposed to the other guys. Deontay seemed like he got so little compared to the other guys, but it's just because he was barely under 20 million.
That's something to talk about too.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, we have not talked about Deontay Johnson's contract. I mean, that was premature, in my opinion. Premature, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think. He hasn't really. Also, he has been at the mercy of Ben Roethlisberger's talent. I mean, I've said the same thing about Chase Claypool. He hasn't.
Premature on his end, right? Not premature on the Steelers' end.
I mean.
Okay, I'm glad we're on the stage there.
But I don't know though. I don't know at the same time.
Oh, dude, if he goes for 1,200 yards this year, they're gonna look great. Because if they had waited to sign him till after the season, and let's say he does have a Pro Bowl 1,200, 1,300 yard season, he would be getting into that 20 mil AAV.
Yeah, I mean now he does have a quarterback, so I totally understand.
Does he?
I think Mitch is gonna be a guy.
So you think it's Mitch?
Oh yeah, to start the year for sure, and majority of the year, I think Mitch makes it through double-digit weeks.
He had
I don't.
the worst quarterback there so far in camp, from what I've heard.
Really?
Like, Mason Rudolph is legitimately getting starting reps at this point because neither is shown out.
Right. I don't know. Like, I mean, I've been pretty firm on my Mitch stance. I mean, that was kind of one of my hot takes when the Steelers signed him, but
For 20, a clutch drill they were doing. 3 for 20, missing his last 15 straight.
that does sound like Mitch Trubisky, though, doesn't it?
Do the Steelers make the playoffs?
Clutch.
Okay, I was actually thinking about this last night. Who thinks that the Steelers finish 500 this year? I don't.
I think fine.
And it'll be the first time that Mike Tomlin ever goes under 500. I don't.
I think that they've got a
hard.
pretty decent schedule, but no, I don't.
Because that's going to be their borderline game, is the divisional games. And their division is so hard. And they have one game at least without Watson if they stick to the 6-game suspension. But if he misses the full year, obviously they're going to get 2 wins. Because they're just
Yeah, but like, but the whole, and we can get into this now if you guys want, but the whole Watson situation with them appealing, it now if it runs into the season, he's going to be allowed to play. I'm pretty sure week 1.
He will.
Right, and the longer it drags on, I mean, I still can't see him playing this year. I don't see it anyway.
At this point, I feel like he is bound to play because they're going to someone not directly within the NFL, even if he has close ties. And it's just going to be yet another appeal, and it's not going to be running off of whatever the bar has been set from the NFL on sexual assault cases. And I think that's what Robinson was running off of in her case, was she set it at 6 because it's slightly worse than what she's seen before. So she just bumped it up slightly to 6 games.
I mean, Big Ben got 6 games for one incident. For one alleged incident.
But I agree with Mitch. Like, this is the first time that the NFL is going to an outside source like Judge Sue Robinson. This is the first time that they're going through a process like this. So, like, if they do end up making it a whole season, as far as the suspension goes, then it would look really bad for the NFL because they're like, the whole point of doing this is to make sure that Roger Goodell isn't like the judge, jury, and executioner of everything as far as suspensions go. So, like, if he does end up getting suspended a full season after he got recommended 6 games from the new process that you're supposed to, like, endorse, that's not going to look good to go in the NFL. So I think he does play, for sure.
And I know that
Here's the other thing. Here's the thing that I feel like a lot of people aren't really talking about, and I think I sent you guys a clip from Dan Lebitard's show about it, which is the Cleveland Browns as an organization. Like, you went out, you gave him this money because you inevitably believed him. Like, you thought that his case and what he was saying was, and that he pleaded his innocence the entire time. Well, now, like, are you confident? Like, are you still sticking by this guy? Are you sitting there saying, "Yep, that's our star quarterback"? It's Kevin Stefanski, same thing. Like, as a coach, are you like you sitting there saying, "That's my quarterback, that's my guy"? Because if so, that's kind of fucked up. Like, I know that it is a business standpoint, and as a coach, you can be like, well, I'm just looking at it from the field and what they produce on the field, and I got to run with my guy. But at the same time, it's like everything that he's done, all these cases, at least 5 of them have proved to be legit sexual assault cases, and it's like you're basically defending. Excuse me, he's a scumbag. I mean, you're essentially defending a scumbag, and you're putting that guy as the face of your franchise. That's what you've done. And it is just a messy situation right now for that entire organization. And this is an organization and a team that we've talked about for so long as like everything's there. Everything that they need to succeed is there. From the defense to the line to the weapons to the running back, everything is there for them to succeed. And we talked about, Baker had his shoulder issues last year, and maybe that's why he wasn't good. But now you got to start to question, you're a Browns fan, and sit there and say, should we have stuck with Baker?
No, of course not, dude.
Yeah.
Of course not. They knew that the suspension, like at the worst case, would be a whole season. So they knew they weren't going to rock with Baker. Like, I mean, Jacoby Brissett has been a starting quarterback in this league before. So I mean, he'll get them through, I believe.
I think it's just from the image though, like that you're portraying now with
Bro,
this guy.
it's not just the Browns that are portraying this like image of Watson. It's like the whole league, because he just got the biggest contract in the history of the NFL as far as guaranteed money, as far as regular, like all like he just got the biggest contract in NFL history.
All entire.
So yeah,
They pushed a lot to not lose as much if they suspended his pay for this season. And I think the thought process behind it, like, in case he gets suspended this season, we'll just push it all off to the next 4 years.
Right.
Tyron,
yeah, that was kind of
Johnson.
that was kind of cool. That was kind of cold.
He showed out at camp for us. We cut him. I'm so mad. This like aggravates me so much to watch him play for the Raiders. But to get back to the Deshaun Watson case, there was a precedent set with Ben Roethlisberger. Like, there was such a vivid case. People have come out and described detail by detail by like what happened in that case. Granted, not a lot has come out to this point unless you like do some deep diving on the Deshaun Watson case. And honestly, he deserves every bit of what the suspension he gets is, if not more, probably a lot more. But they set a precedent with Big Ben.
Even hey, Kane, how far were these floods from you?
So I'm more northern Kentucky instead of eastern Kentucky.
Okay.
But I did make sure to check that before I drove up here last week. Thought that would be something important. Jack?
I do understand what you guys are saying about the image, like the whole league takes on this image now, but the league is still trying to do something about it. Like, they're still pushing to get him suspended more. The Browns don't want him to be suspended. You get, like, if you're the Browns organization, do you want this guy to be suspended for a year?
No.
I think they might do the 12 games they offered him initially, and it's a little bit of a bump up, so they show they're a little more serious. But they're still kind of sticking to what they were doing before because they already laid the lines beforehand, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it is a crazy situation, to say the least, with Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. But speaking of interesting quarterbacks, what's going on with Matt Stafford? Apparently, he's got a little bit of an injury going on, and I'll throw it to the injury expert, Mitchell McDonald, for a little bit of insight on that, because I don't have a clue. Yeah.
Real quick. What I read is that it was like very similar to what pitchers deal with in baseball.
Like UCL?
That's I read that it was very similar to what pitchers deal with in baseball. Let me pull up the article real quick. I saw Adam Schefter.
I saw it, so I haven't had a lot of time, but my instant thought was them saying it was unusual was me thinking like kind of like it's the baseball almost, like a little more mass to it, a little more weight, like just that snapping motion, because I've seen Stafford throw before and he kind of flicks through a little more than normal quarterbacks.
That's what makes him talented, dude. A-Rod does the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, this is McVay said it is a little bit abnormal for a quarterback, comparing it instead to what pitchers deal with.
Interesting.
He received an injection in his right elbow during the offseason. He didn't throw during any spring workouts, saying he and the team were trying to be smart with his throwing arm.
Yeah, but from that, it sounds like he's just going to deal with it during the season.
If they have like a first round exit, I think it's going to come out that he needs like UCL, Tommy John surgery, because at this point it sounds like something's messed up. Like, you can throw on it, but it's going to be uncomfortable, and you can receive those injections as much as you want if you are a $100 million quarterback like Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still practicing.
Yeah, but that's a problem, like over usage, you know.
So let me ask you guys this:
There
from
are
a
probably
fantasy perspective.
1,000 high schoolers throwing on torn UCLs right now. It's just a matter of whether or not they have a scholarship or not.
So from a fantasy perspective, does this factor into like Allen Robinson at all, or even Cooper Kupp?
I still think you can still throw the same. It's just a matter of how much pain you can deal with.
Do you still take Allen Robinson over Cortland Sutton?
Not anymore.
It's not quite.
Not anymore. Cortland Sutton.
Mitch, do you still take Allen Robinson over Cortland Sutton?
It's rough because Cortland Sutton has less competition, and I don't trust Jerry Jeudy if they still put him in the slot because Russ does not look at the slot at all.
Well, now Tim Patrick's out too.
Yeah, I know. They were lining up Tim Patrick on the outside. I don't know if they put Jeudy on the outside or Hamler because Hamler would fit that Tyler Lockett role more because he is a better deep ball guy. It's kind of weird. You kind of have to tap into like those beat writers that are in Denver themselves to see who's getting what share of snaps at this point. It is. It kind of jumbles it up. It was solved.
They've been. I was listening to beat writers talking about how like all of the red zone looks, every single one has been going to Cortland Sutton. Like Russ loves him in the red zone, and he's going to use that big body and that big target as much as he can in the red zone, which is what you'd expect.
He can probably get up higher than DK, honestly.
Probably, yeah.
He is not as hefty, so I think he probably has a little more bounce, maybe not the speed.
What are we talking about?
Whew, Zamir White, what a run.
Zamir is going to steal Josh Jacobs' job.
Speaking of prolonged injuries, though, speaking of Josh Jacobs and his turf toe, Chris Carson, we have not had a chance to talk about, oh, wow, what a bomb. Oh, no, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, Johnson.
How do you fuck it up right at the end there?
I love Tyron.
He had it. He's like, what the fuck, man?
That was terrible, man.
Last year, I don't know why we cut him.
But yeah, speaking of ailment running backs in the league right now, Chris Carson, we have not had a chance to talk about how he's retired and what that means for Seattle. I mean, obviously, Seattle isn't going to be a contender this year, but what are we thinking about Kenneth Walker in fantasy this year? Guys like, I mean...
Oh, I was going to say, him or Rashad Penny, who you going with?
It's good. Probably Rashad Penny.
Oh,
man, that's a concussion.
But to get back to your
Oh no, was that a spinal injury?
From what? No, I don't think it's quite spinal. It's just a bad concussion. I think at this point, it might be like upper cervical stuff. Yeah, it might be enough whiplash. But to get back to it.
Oh no!
Last year, I think he's going to get a majority of the rushing attempts, but from what I've heard, Kenneth Walker has been the better receiving back camp. He's been hit on a lot of like wheel routes in the red zone and stuff like that. He might just be the better receiving back that gives him that edge, because I know personally in like sleeper mock drafts and stuff like that, he has a higher ADP. And I think it's solely off of receiving routes, which he just wasn't getting at Michigan State. They are not a fan of that.
Kenneth Walker.
We're not a fan of that.
Kenneth Walker was an absolute. Like, he could definitely.
He was a Heisman.
Right. Like, he could.
Who's going to be the best rookie running back this year?
Breece Hall.
I don't think. I really am not high on Breece Hall this year. I'm not. Because Michael Carter is still there, man. And Ty Johnson got a lot of reps.
Nah, Ty Johnson's days are done.
He a Terp?
He is done.
He a Terp? What happened? Come on! What happened?
He a Terp, but he is done.
5 attempts to him game.
I really like.
Oh, I also too.
Buffalo. I think he could be the guy just because. Are we really sold on Devin Singletary or Zach Moss?
Much better receiving back than the other two.
I think he'll be used as a legit like receiving weapon. Like they'll line him out wide.
Yeah, and Buffalo doesn't even run the ball, at least with their running backs, anyways. Like it's Josh Allen or that's it.
Singletary and Moss weren't exactly great running the ball, so you can understand why they weren't running it that much.
Who do you guys think is going to be comeback player of the year?
Oh.
There's a lot of really good candidates.
Big one. I think the Giants don't put up a great record, but he puts up like 1,800 all-purpose.
You would take him over McCaffrey?
Yeah, it was. What the hell is he wearing?
He's got the whole fit.
He put on the old-fashioned helmet.
He's ready to go, man.
But yeah, let's dive into some of our questions here. And we do have some in Instagram as well. But from Chris Benori, who's sitting on my left side right now, he said, what's the takes on OBJ to the Colts as a possibility, as well as the beautiful first touchdown in the big game? Of course, he's referring to the first touchdown scored in the Super Bowl. He did make, like, how much was it? A lot of money from that bet.
I know Drake did as well.
But what are the takes on OBJ? We were talking about it a little bit before the podcast. I'm interested to see. Because now that Julio's gone, the wide receiver market outside of Will Fuller, which I'm not even sure what's going on there, is dried up. So
Will Fuller should go to Green Bay. Makes the most sense.
Why is that?
I just think that he fits what they need.
A receiver with a pulse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, when Will Fuller has been healthy and by healthy I mean healthy or not suspended.
Was healthy was when he got suspended. He's been hurt every other.
But like when he's playing, he's actually pretty solid.
Yeah, he's good. He's kind of boom or bust. Like that game on Thanksgiving where he had 300 or 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. It comes and goes so much.
But how about
speaking of guys that had?
How about the Colts? Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of guys that had like one game that was like huge or whatever, and we'll go back to OBJ after this. But what do you guys think about Gabe Davis this year?
He is a high target guy. Not necessarily receptions, but touchdowns.
Who has more catches this year, James Cook or Gabriel Davis? I think it might be James Cook, dude.
I think it's going to be Davis because no Emmanuel Sanders, no Cole Beasley.
Oh.
But Jamison.
Ooh, Jamison Crowder.
Jamison Crowder is there.
He's a dog.
He's there.
He's better than Cole Beasley in the slot.
But Emmanuel Sanders still took a lot.
It's touchdowns. So more receiving points. I'm definitely leaning more towards Gabe Davis on points. But in total, Cook might sneak out a few rushing touchdowns. I don't know how much rushing yards he'll get, considering they still like Singletary based on the end of last year.
Yeah, no, understood. But I do want to also talk about we don't have to talk about OBJ necessarily because we did talk about him a little bit. He's probably going to be out the entire year.
You guys don't think that he comes back for the playoffs?
Why would you after you came back and got injured? Apparently it's a good thing because his ACL wasn't completely repaired. So they were able to completely repair it this time. But why would he go through? I don't think he would go through that trauma again of coming back and possibly tearing his ACL again in the playoffs. If it's not ready.
I think he said a month before the Super Bowl. He felt a tear and just played through it. And that's really why he went down non-contact in that Super Bowl game. There is no reason to wait an entire year at this point. Granted, he doesn't have a ton of years left on his legs at this point, but there's no reason to risk take those 6 extra months on top of what your normal rehab is and get your legs back in shape so you can actually play in the season.
It'll be interesting to see where he goes. I mean, I don't think that he goes.
Oh, nice fine. Oh, is that complete?
Stidham's looking.
That guy that just caught that ball is going to have a big game against the Chiefs this year.
Marcus.
Calling it. I said it on the AFC West preview, and I'm sticking to it.
Tyron Johnson's going to have a big one against us. Don't worry.
So, Chris brought up Bernori to the Colts. You guys think that the Colts are going to be functional without a premier receiving weapon in that offense? I mean, I'm legitimately concerned. Michael Pittman's good, but he's wide receiver too good. If you want to be the level of good that the Colts need to be, I have serious doubts.
Well, I think this is the time for they've been waiting on to finally step up, and that's Paris Campbell. I think Paris Campbell's got to show that he is a capable wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in order for this offense to flourish.
Yeah, fair.
I think Pittman might serve as that route runner as opposed to deep ball guy, and it might end up like the great value Walmart brand version of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, because Alec Pierce is a deep ball runner. He is about as good as it comes as go routes of the guys that are coming out of this class. And then you have Michael Pittman, who managed to finish, I think it was 3rd against single coverage on, I think it was yards per attempt. And I think he averaged 6.7 for yards per attempt on single coverage as opposed to Keenan Allen, Devontae, and Mike Evans. So he was in 4th. But still, he knows how to get open. He is kind of like a safety valve guy, if you have somewhat chemistry with him. And then Pierce is that deep ball guy. Granted, it leaves a lot for you to want from this team. But
we know how Matt Ryan likes his number 1 target. I mean, Julio Jones, Roddy White, Calvin Ridley. He loves his number 1 target, and
yeah,
he's done it before in the past with just having one main wide receiver. So does he do it again at the age that he's at?
Rushing.
Maybe, I don't know.
There he is.
Uh-oh.
I also think that Nyheim Hines is going to have an absolutely ball because they don't have the weapon. So with the receiving backs just getting better, and Nyheim Hines, he had a really decent. I think he's just going to up that with a higher level of quarterback, Matt Ryan, who apparently has taken a hell of a leadership role at camp and everything. Getting those offense. Who knows what we'll see out of the Colts. Let's move on to some of our other questions. And we do have a question. What are the odds the Bengals making it back to the Super Bowl?
Making it back. I'd put the odds of them winning it at the same as them making it back just because of the AFC.
Yeah. I don't think the odds of them making it back are very good at all.
I mean, they're
going to win that division now that they aren't missing half of their initial roster.
I also noticed on our poll on the over-under, I believe the over-under on wins was 9.5. And I mean, the majority of people did take the under on that for the Bengals, And I did.
Well, it's because I think of the schedule and the Super Bowl hangover and everything in that regard. I think that's probably why people are looking at it.
But you literally can't think of a better offseason they could have had. I mean, they needed to address the offensive line. They did. You got Lyle Collins, Ali Marpet, right?
No, they got the guy from the Patriots.
Kappa.
That's who. Yep.
And they signed the guy from the Patriots. I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, I mean, we were begging right after the Super Bowl. We were like, okay, they can be a legitimate contender if they address this offense. Exactly what they did. So the odds of them making it back to the Super Bowl. Oh, Ted Karras.
That's who it was. Yeah, they have him at center right now. But yeah, I think that they've got a pretty solid line now. I mean, it's anything's better than what they probably had, but it's just the AFC is so deep, and they benefited from some teams that had injuries last year. I think they had some good fortune as well throughout the playoffs, but I think there's way too much competition and way too many guys that have like a narrative this year. Oh shit!
Like a lot to prove. There is a lot of quarterbacks in the AFC to prove something. Josh Allen, Jackson. You got Herbert. You probably have
Tua,
something himself. Tua,
Mac Jones.
I feel like Tannehill always has something to prove because everybody thinks he's just
Deshaun.
Deshaun even plays, but yeah.
Who else is there?
I don't think Matt Ryan has anything to prove. He is what he is.
I think Burrow's got a little bit of something to prove, man. Looking at these quarterback deals right now, I mean, he could start getting paid.
Man, this is a good little 1 minute drill by
yeah, I know.
Who's the Jags quarterback?
Right now, it's not Mullins anymore because Mullins was 9, I think.
Mullins was on the Raiders.
Shit, he was. Who was on this? Beathard was on the Jags and he was inactive.
Oh, beat hard. CJ beat hard. Wow, I did not know Matt Stafford was tied for the most picks last year. Huh.
I didn't. He had a lot more touchdowns than Trevor Lawrence, though.
So we got some questions on the Instagram. One of them, yeah, I mean, dang. Running a hell of a.
Oh, Cosby. A lot last year.
Yeah, we got some questions on the Instagram. We already talked about it a little bit, but what do we think of Deontay Johnson's contract? Tyler said, premature on his part. Could have waited, balled out this year with a better quarterback, gotten some more money, more similar to the money that Harry got, that DK got, that Debo got. But I don't know. I mean, are we even convinced that Deontay is even that guy, man? I don't know if we're putting him in. I don't think he belongs in the conversation with those guys just because he was drafted in this class, personally. I think Deontay's gotten way too much hype.
I think he lost out on a lot of money because he could have gotten traded and made that money elsewhere. Because the height to get that wide receiver one, the guys who can take over a game for you on the outside, is at an all-time high right now. And he's in the same class with everybody making over dollars, and he did not make that.
Did not know that Press Taylor, the Jags OC, is Zach Taylor.
I was going to say, I mean, I pretty much thought that because Zach Taylor, they look like exactly like, it's like the Grudens, pretty much.
Oh!
They do look pretty similar.
But we already went over Deontay's contract a little bit, but let's dive into some of the other questions we got here. Are the Bucks going 14-3 this year? The Bucks are one of the teams that have yet to be named in our power rankings, which we do have to talk a little bit about our power rankings once the whole list comes out, because we've gotten some stiff arguments in the comments of those posts so far.
The Bucks have a very, very favorable schedule.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I mean, the NFC South is not what it used to be. That's number one. But then they've got
no wide receiver.
The Seahawks on there, possibly the Browns. Who knows what that situation is going to be like? So and then they've got teams like the Cardinals and San Fran. They do play the Bengals, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Packers.
Yeah.
I mean, 14-3 is a lot.
It's hard to only lose games in a season when you're playing the division.
Especially, well, I was going to say also, especially with like the fact that they might have their division clinched and they might not have anything to play for, and then lose that final game just for shits and gigs.
Yeah, I would put a lot of money on them to not hit 14-3.
I don't think.
Yeah, I would say 12-5.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Very solid for them.
I mean, I know that this isn't an on paper evaluation, but I also don't think that Tom Brady would come back to have a 10-win season. He's also with
I don't think
with Julio there too now. Come on, got some dogs over there. Gio Bernard's looking pretty good in camp so far. I mean, Lenny looked really good down the stretch last year.
Not so
really. Let's have a legitimate conversation about Julio because we actually haven't done that yet.
And we've got halftime,
yeah,
so we got time.
A lot of the thoughts with Julio. I mean, last time we saw Julio off field, dog shit. Are we attributing that season to workload, his injuries, Tannehill? I can't put a finger on why.
Hamstring injury. He couldn't shake it the entire year.
And then my thing is though, like he's a guy at his age where like that injury might just never go away.
Yeah, it's been a persistent thing year after year for him. He hasn't developed his hamstrings apparently.
And granted, you know, this is arguably one of, if not the greatest wide receiver of our lifetime. I mean, like in the last decade, honestly, his career, and I know this guy only went, you know, he probably retired a little bit earlier than what we projected, but like Calvin Johnson, you know, like it's kind of the same thing where these guys get to like 32 and it's like, that's it. And that's why, like, we're talking about OBJ. I mean, OBJ got drafted in like, when did he get drafted? 2013? 2014. He was 2014. So OBJ will be 30 this year.
Same.
And that's kind of that mark that I look at where I'm like, how much more do these guys have left in the tank? Because Julio's what, 32, 33?
Yeah. I mean, he's at least, it's got to be 33. Yeah.
He's 33. He turned 33 this year. So, like, I mean, what would you consider a quote-unquote successful season?
I think red zone target-wise, I think he might be a fucking monster. And also, out of all places, Tampa Bay knows how to preserve their veterans. That's been basically a retirement home for guys as of late, you know? So...
I mean, I agree with you on that. But the other thing that I think a lot of people are forgetting about, everybody's like, oh, well, Chris Godwin's hurt. So, like, he's going to be able to step right in and do really well. Russell Gage is a guy that I'm going to be targeting. And I shouldn't be telling you guys this, but that is a guy that I'm going to be targeting in pretty much every single draft because Brady loves the slot. He loves those speedy guys. And that's exactly what Russell Gage is. I think Russell Gage is going to have a lot more of an impact on this team.
Yeah, and he made a point to go out and get Gage. Like, he was hitting him up, like, on his phone, and he was like, I think Gage came out in an interview or on Twitter or something, and oh, you're talking about me? Like, and because out of all people, he would reach out to him. But obviously, Tom Brady, the best football player of all time, saw something in Russell Gage that he liked the games that they played. So, I agree with you.
And I don't want to sit here and say like Julio Jones is a bad player because like he's not. He's, like I said, he's arguably one of the greatest wide receivers in the last decade. But I don't know how much he's going to be able to provide at this stage in his career. Like I could see like 200, 300 yards on the season. Like I don't see. I see
around 400 yards, but as far as a goal line red zone option, I think he could hit double-digit touchdowns, especially with his main guy, Gronk, is gone. You know, I think Mike Evans gonna have an absolute monster. But He likes his guys in the end zone. And Gronk was that guy last year. Didn't put up crazy yardage or anything, but gonna get those touchdowns, I think.
Mitch, we were talking about Russell Gage's impact on this team, and I said he's going to have much more of an impact than Julio will.
It depends on how long Godwin takes to get back, because Godwin is not going to.
See, I don't think that has an effect.
I think that if Julio can avoid his typical hamstring injury, like Kane said, he is going to be that red zone target, because everybody and their mother knows Mike Evans is going to be a red zone target. But everybody thinks that Julio is not quite there anymore. And if you're a true insider, you think he's washed at this point. You can't divert attention to both. So I think you're willing to take the single coverage on Julio at this point, and I think it's going to get a lot of teams burned.
Fair enough.
He doesn't necessarily be like an 800-yard receiver this season, but I think he can crack 500 yards when healthy.
It's the biggest question. When healthy? It's like, is he going to, like, I don't see this guy being able to play 4 or 5 games straight without having some kind of nagging injury that pops up.
It's hard to predict.
Like I said, I mean, the Bucs seem to be the retirement home of late for aging stars, and they've had success there, except for AB, who coincidentally was told to play injured.
AB had success.
Yeah, he did. You're right.
This very brief stint, but yeah,
AB, when AB was there, like, he was. I had him on fantasy, and he killed it for me.
I know, that's fair.
You should have dumped him so quick, man.
Yeah, because I know that he's gonna run off the field with his shirt off and just totally quit football.
Distraction based on the past year and a half, at least.
And now he's didn't he perform at like Rolling Loud or something?
Yeah, he was in some like leather jacket with no shirt underneath, just like dancing around stage trying to perform his song.
I mean, he's still making money, so like, good on him. But like, what are you doing, bro? You were in the prime.
He lost out on guaranteed for the Raiders. All he had to do was a week, and he would have had a guaranteed 30 minutes. He couldn't do it. He is an all-time bag fumbler.
Do you think that there's some CTE going on there?
Oh, 100%.
I do.
Good Lord, caused some issues there. Single.
All right, Julio's former team. Who has the better season, Traylon Burks or Bobby Trees?
Ooh, great question. I think it's Bobby Trees, man. I think the Bobby Trees hype from this past season will carry over to this next season. Like, it's came a year too late.
He is coming off a torn ACL.
That's true. But I mean, that happened towards the end of towards the beginning of the year, right? I mean,
yeah, it was like week 5.
Yeah.
Wait, stop. There's a problem. What?
I think Bobby Trees provides more of that like short rarity, and then Traylon is more of what AJ was in that jump ball, go get it guy thing, because he does not have a lot to his route tree yet. He is go balls and very short routes, but I think Robert Woods is a little more consistent in that like 5 to 10 range, which is probably Tannehill's money.
we have a couple of comments here about the Eagles smoking the Commanders this year. Got a couple of people saying facts.
I text. That's funny because somebody must have been reading my mind, because that was something that I texted you guys, and I was just getting ready to talk about. Like, I weirdly really like the Eagles this year, and I hate the Eagles. I despise Philly.
Wow.
I despise every sports team in Philly. Can't stand that city. But I think the Eagles are really going to have a good year. I think that they're going to win the division. I think they could win 10, 11, or 12 games. Look at their schedule. Their schedule is a cakewalk. Look at their first 4 games. No offense, Kane. But, like, their first 4 games are, like, I think the Lions are there. Washington's there. I want to say the Texans are there.
But win. Come on.
That's their toughest game. It's the Lions. Oh, the Vikings are there too. Oops. The Lions, the Vikings, Commanders, and Jags.
Cakewalk.
They've also got the Texans in there. They've got. I know. I forgot about that game, but it's on the road. It's in Philly, so like the Vikings will lose that. It's prime time. Come on, we know how Kirk Cousins does.
I don't.
He's gonna blow it.
I
love that confidence,
dude. If our defense,
it's the second game of the year. It's the second game of the year. Monday Night Football. Like,
if our defense plays like it should and how it did on paper, like the year before when we made it to the playoffs and almost beat Tom Brady en route to the Super Bowl, or when he was en route to the Super Bowl. Like, if our defense can lock it down this year and play like we're supposed to play, with Chase Young coming back and an improved secondary, I think we could do some damage, dude, because Carson Wentz is an NFL quarterback, something that we haven't had in Washington in a decade, dude, since RG3, since Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was an NFL quarterback, and I really do miss Kirk Cousins, but
okay,
it's
the last time we saw Carson Wentz on a football field, he was blowing his team's chances to go to the playoffs against the team with the number 1 pick last year, the worst team in football.
I'm
just saying. And then, do you remember the interception he had against the Rams, where he just like was on the goal line getting ready to get sacked?
Everybody, I mean, I've said this 1,000 times. Everybody wants to pretend like every game was the Jacksonville game. That's not true, man. It's not true. He was one of the better quarterbacks. He was top 8 QBR.
I called the Jags winning that.
Also, now that Terry is on the extension, he is the premier target for a guy like Carson Wentz, who's never had that sort of thing. I mean, Pittman is not that guy. Come on now, and he didn't have it in Philly. He's never had a receiver. He's the first quarterback in NFL history to throw over 4,500 yards in a season without a receiver that went for 500 yards. It's insane.
I take Pittman over.
You take Pittman over Terry.
What's your guys' line? What's your guys' offensive line like? Because that's the better question.
Cosme is at what, right tackle?
Yeah, Andrew Norwell, Charles Leno, Chase
Rollier,
Rollier, and Wes Schweitzer.
Schweitzer's been on the team for a while. Rollier has been.
Jonathan Taylor. It just doesn't add up. Like, he literally just had to hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor, and he could produce no turnovers, which is why he was held under 10 picks last year, because he could just hand it off and do dump-off passes in the red zone to just get his touchdowns, because he could sell the play action. I don't think Gibson provides that. And I don't think the offensive line can open up that like they did in Indianapolis.
All right. Let's play Tyler's favorite game. Would you rather Carson Wentz or Kirk Cousins?
I'm gonna say Carson Wentz, and this is the same argument that I've been saying about Carson Wentz. Like, he has the talent to be an MVP caliber quarterback still. Kirk Cousins will never get close to that. Sure, good NFL quarterback. But
Carson Wentz or Jameis Winston?
Carson had. Like, Kirk's Washington years will be better than what Carson puts up this year.
Okay.
Mitch, Carson Wentz or Jameis?
Let's talk a little bit about Jameis Winston, huh? I kind of want to talk about that.
Jameis. Like, no respect to Carson, because I do think Carson has it in him. I just think Jameis has somewhat learned from his time in the league, not in that Bruce Arians offense that forces you to try to push downfield. Because he didn't have the reputation Tom Brady had to say, no, I'm not going to throw it 30 yards downfield every time. And he just couldn't say no to him. And he was forced to make dumb passes because he had to look downfield every time.
How about Jameis Winston, though? Like, I think that I might take Jameis Winston over Carson Wentz coming year. And
I do like
I mean, he's got Michael Thomas and Olave now.
And
Like,
and Jarvis as a very safe safety net. He's got
Right.
depending on what happens
I mean,
with
that's
Kamara,
another
that's
thing.
a big if.
But Adam Troutman was
Good,
like
like,
really hyped up a lot before.
Yeah, but how often
Not
do
a
we see
rookie
rookie
anymore.
tight ends come into the
Second year.
league and actually produce?
dude. I see Olave get at least 350 plays just on training camp notes. He's been,
Yeah, Olave looks
No.
good.
and that is a very good secondary. You got Marcus
I'm going to the bathroom.
Johnson, Gardner Johnson, Marcus Lattimore. Who else do we got? Because I know that's one of the more well-rounded defensive backs units that is in the league at this moment. And the Saints, I don't know where we ended up ranking them consensus defensively, but that is a good defense. And Jameis has, from what I've heard, looked very good so far.
Also, like the Saints. I mean,
Getting kicked out of camp at this point, they have looked.
But what I was gonna say about the Saints is like, is Michael Thomas the clear number one target in New Orleans still? Like, because now that you've got Olave, and now that you've got like some other options over there, like I think Olave might. The time for Michael Thomas being the number one target in New Orleans is over. You know? And we've never seen him play with Jameis. We've never seen. And Michael Thomas hasn't been on a football field forever.
I think they might lean to that like safety net valve while they're still figuring it out with all the new receivers, just newness of the offense in general with Dennis Allen in charge. They might lean to Thomas's short routes. And dude, I did not think Thomas would be able to make cuts the way he's been making them right now. Like the surgery he had and that I've heard he had, I don't know if it's like a necessary, like credible surgeon, but the deltoid ligament on the side of the ankle, that is a hard ligament to tear, and it is hard to repair, which would make sense why it took him over a year to get ready. But he looks good again. He looks like that Michael Thomas that went for 144 catches. I just think that PPR value, if you're in a full point PPR, he is going to be as consistent as they come. Olave is going to come and go just as most rookies do. I mean, you look at Waddle. He was so much more consistent than Jamar Chase, but you'd rather have Jamar Chase. But Jamar Chase could have easily made you miss the playoffs if you banked on him way too early in a draft. I just think that safety valve of Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, not even Mike Evans, but more Deontay Johnson type of player, can get you to the playoffs if you wait like halfway through the season and trade them off. But Thomas is just such a sure thing, I feel like, at this point. And I might just be cautiously optimistic because I think he is one of the best like short route runners in the league, but he looked like he did 2 years ago before the injury. Kane, I gotta ask you, man. What do you think of Trey Lance? Volume out.
Oh, my apologies, man. So, what dude, I've been on mute for the past like solid like minute, probably. But
I was about to say I saw you talking for a little bit. I looked away and then looked back down.
yeah, that's why you asked me about Trey Lance. But I was saying while you were doing that, I would love to. You were talking a lot about Michael Thomas and the fantasy perspective for him, but we haven't really done a head first dive into fantasy yet. So might as well do that a little bit because we're talking about viable fantasy options like Michael Thomas, and this is the kind of year that you need options like that at wide receiver because wide receivers will be going off the board earlier than they usually do. Speaking of that, though, dude, I really think I'm going wide receiver if I can in the first round of most fantasy drafts.
I mean, in the draft, I'm in with you and Jaden in our 8-man league. I'm at 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Jaden is strictly on 0 running back. I think I'm very willing to take like an off-neck or maybe Derrick Henry. I'm not as huge on him, but just because he doesn't get the receiving element. But if I can get one of those elite running backs, it's amazing. The 0 running back strategy works great if you're in probably a deeper league and you're outside of that first half of the draft, because those first half of the draft running backs, they can usually make or break a team. Because those Jonathan Taylors of the world, those McCaffrey when healthies, there's no replacing them. And if you trade them, you are going to get an insane amount of value if you actually know what you have on your plate.
But we've seen wide receivers be more valuable than running backs as of late, you know? Like, sure, the depth at running back is a little more shallow, but this is the year that you would want to try the 0 RB strategy because of the depth. And Cooper Kupp proved last year that guys can win you a league that play the wide receiver position, you know? Like, I mean...
Yeah, but Cooper Kupp was also like a 3rd or 4th round pick.
Yeah, last year for sure. But we're talking about this year, like what your draft strategy as far as running backs, wide receivers go. Because we were thinking we dive headfirst into some fantasy discussion. But
I mean, I'm such a traditionalist. Like, I'm such a traditionalist, and I want to secure that at least RB1 spot. And then I'll, depending on like,
I don't think I will this year.
I
don't think I will.
It depends. It also depends on the pick. Like, if I have like pick 10, like, yeah, I'm going to consider a wide receiver there for sure. But you damn well best believe that I'm probably going to go running back the next round.
So what running backs go off the board before you consider a wide receiver? So it's
JT, McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry. I would say those 4. Eckler.
I was about to say, put Eckler in there. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, well, before I consider wide receiver, I would see that's the thing, because if Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson drops to like 4 or like 5, then I'm probably going to take one of them.
No, I 100% agree. I'll go see it. I'm probably not going McCaffrey, dude. I'm staying away from McCaffrey. JT, Derrick Henry, who I do see regression from this year. I think Derrick Henry, I mean, obviously regression from the pace that he was going at last year, but he wasn't even effective at his pace. I think he's going to be injury riddled for one of the first. But I'm going JT, going Derrick Henry, and maybe Dalvin Cook before I consider Justin Jefferson.
Not Eckler? Come on.
Oh, Eckler. Yeah, probably Eckler. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a monster.
Yeah, but Eckler had 20 touchdowns.
I'll probably throw Eckler into that conversation too. Eckler might be more solidified than Dalvin Cook in my opinion, because we're going to see a new look Minnesota offense this year. Like, Dalvin Cook's not going to be the same Dalvin Cook. I mean, Tyler, you can attest to that. What do you think Dalvin Cook's outlook is going to look like this year?
We were talking about it earlier with like lining him up at receiver a little bit more, and I think that the usage is going to be down a little bit, but like how much? Like, I don't see him getting the 30 carries a game, but I still see him getting 20.
And also you can, like you said, utilize him in the receiving game. It just balance out.
But Dalvin, I worry about Dalvin's injury history. You know, like Dalvin always has missed a game or two every single season, it seems like. And that's not a hyperbole. Like that's pretty much spot on with him.
But just
if you're gonna draft him, you better draft Madison. You 100%. Out of those running backs between JT, McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and Dalvin Cook, I think Dalvin is the one that I would draft the backup. Like the other 3, they have the backups, but they're not as solidified as Madison is. Like, if Dalvin Cook goes down, you know you're getting possibly an RB1. Like, he's in the RB1 conversation immediately. Wouldn't you say that? Like, if Dalvin Cook goes down, wouldn't you say that that Madison hopped into
Yeah.
that
Oh
RB
yeah, for
combo?
sure. I'm just wondering how long. I mean, Madison, he's an equal replacement for Dalvin Cook. How many guys in the NFL do we have like that anymore? I feel like the handcuff trend was so popular for a while, but now it's fallen out of favor because now it's Madison and yeah, Kareem Hunt, sure.
Kareem Hunt.
If you even want to consider that an insurance option because they basically play equal time now. Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb.
Yeah, and didn't they just bring somebody in? Cleveland.
Oh yeah, they got Jerome draft. And got Ernest Johnson. They signed to a tender for some reason, and then drafted running back again. I have no idea why.
Ernest Johnson.
It made no sense why they had 4 good running backs.
Former fishing boat captain, Ernest Johnson.
Yeah. Jerome Ford, he was Cincy back, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, him, Alec Pierce, and Ritter. That was. Here's all right. Speaking of Ritter, do you think Ritter ends up starting at any point this year over Mariota?
Apparently, Mariota is like
They're going to be so bad that they feel the need to see what they have in them. I think by game 13, 14, they're going to have to put them in.
I like Mariota a lot. Like I've always liked Mariota, even coming out of Oregon. I think that he starts the whole year because also he's looked great in camp. So
I like that team provides nothing around him, and they're going to feel the need to look into a quarterback round 1, and they're going to have to see what they have out of Ritter before they even try to move on because developed some.
My headset died.
But yeah, so we got a couple other questions and comments here. Will the Chiefs beat the Bengals this year? Who do you like better this year? Do you think the Bengals have finally gotten over the hump, over that Chiefs hump? And would you take a team like the Chiefs over the Bengals, or are you still rocking with the Chiefs consistently? And I mean, how many times do they play each other this year? Twice? Yep.
Once, if not a playoff game, if that. They both won the division.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and look at the schedule right now. But, I mean, have the Bengals gotten over that hump? I mean, they did beat them in the...
I don't think they have because they're bringing in a very rookie secondary because Jesse Bates is not going to play for them now.
He's going to get traded to the Raiders. Watch.
Oh, fuck that. No. Dear God.
That would be a perfect fit.
I'm sorry. Good Lord. They are not able to afford that. They can't afford that.
It's a perfect fit, though.
They can't afford him. But personally, I don't think they have been able to overcome what the Chiefs have done. Because the Chiefs managed to trade away Tyreek Hill, and at the same time, they drafted Sky
Who looks
Moore,
good.
picked up producer, and got MVS, who can make up for 3 waves of the passing game when they had 2 legitimate passing threats on the outside. Because none of those receivers could catch. Nico and Byron were not good receivers. They could barely catch. And now you have 3 legitimate weapons on the outside. It is so much better. And then they managed to get more draft picks to make that defense more solidified. I mean, just getting Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis alone is good enough. And then you get a steal of Leo Chenal alongside Nick Bolton on the inside linebacker position. This defense improved a ton. Even with losing Chardavius Ward. Sorry. They are still one of the more solid defenses in the league. They don't necessarily have the overwhelming flash on pass rush or cornerback, but they are well built throughout.
Let me hear it, Kane. Let me hear it.
What you want?
I'm conservative.
Like it.
I'm sorry.
Kane hates the Chiefs D.
I do, and I've had a relationship with the Chiefs defense, and They've just got a lot of new faces this year, man. Like, you're bringing so many new faces, like a group of rookies in.
Justin Reed, we didn't even.
Yeah, Justin Reed, but he's a new face, and he's not Tyrann Mathieu. He can't just step into a defense and automatically lead and, like, just slide into a defensive scheme. But they have so many.
What'd you say?
Yeah, what'd you say, Mitch?
I think Juan Thornhill stepping into his spot. So far, he's been picking up coverages pretty well behind Patrick Mahomes playing on the first teams. So, I mean, there's optimism in Kansas City for the pass coverage.
There's optimism. The new faces thing is huge. And Rick Spagnolia, he was fumbling around for the first 8 weeks last year trying to figure out what was wrong with his defense. And imagine what he's going to do with a handful of rookies and a bunch of new faces.
Wait, did you call him Rick Spagnolia?
Steve.
You did that on the pod. I don't know what your obsession with Rick is.
Steve. I did it on the pod for what?
When we were breaking down the AFC West.
Oh, jeez, man. Rick Spagnolia.
So wait, Mitch, you think Leo Chenal is going to start over Jermaine Carter?
Yeah. I think
He hurt.
Just because he is an athletic freak. And then just playing any athletic freak behind Nick Bolton's awareness, you're asking for something good because you have.
And Willie Gay is not terrible either.
No, it's not necessarily like the hardest position to hide either. If there is a weakness in awareness or anything like that, I think he plays. And they have the tandem to be the best inside linebacker group in the league by far. Good grief, they're gonna be good.
So we got one last little comment here as we wind down a little bit because we are at the hour and 21 mark, which is solid. But hey, it's been a kick-ass. It's fucking just fun to talk about football.
Yeah, and it's nice to watch the game and provide a little insight to the game, but then also discuss some things that have been happening. And like Mitch said, and I think you might have mentioned it too, Kane. It's August. Now's when we really start to dive into fantasy and really start to look in because realistically, we're 2 or 3 weeks away from a lot of drafts here that are going to be taking place. I mean, preseason games are going to be kicking in. I think next weekend is the first legitimate weekend of preseason games. So we're getting close.
Yeah, we are getting close. August is always the mark, the bookmark.
I mean, college games start in 3 weeks.
Yeah, dude. No, it's absolutely. And Kentucky's going to be a contender this year, man. Forward to it. Will Levis, top 10 pick next year.
Number 1, baby. Number 1.
Hey, when you're coughing, come on. Show us something.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that, but I can speak to his.
I think the biggest wild card in next year's draft at the quarterback position is Spencer Rattler.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to get to that first round point, though. Because.
Would you say, Mitch?
Dude, I think that dude has a cannon. He's going top 10.
Who is it?
From Florida. The quarterback, Richardson.
AR-15?
It's not Emory Jones, is it?
AR-15? Anthony Richardson? Yes, sir.
Now restricted.
Yeah, he's a dog. He's a dog. But yeah, man.
He has so much arm talent. If he shows anything, he's going
He's
top
talented.
10.
And he's.
Yeah, he lost. Florida lost their number 1 target at receiver, though.
What school poached that guy again, Tyler? I can't remember what school poached the Florida's number 1 wide receiver.
Oh, that's right, Maryland. That's why Maryland has top 5 wide receiver group in the entire country this year.
Last comment that I wanted to.
They do, man. Rakim Jarrett, Dante Demas, and Jacob Copeland. Those are all 3 NFL receivers.
With Talia Tagovailoa at the helm, dude. The better one of the Tagovailoa brothers.
I hope that'd be awesome.
Oh,
Hey, 150 to 1 to win the Big Ten, right?
yes, sir. I think something like that. But one last little comment I wanted to address. John Michael, also Jacob McLaren made his annual Go Ravens comment, so we always appreciate that.
I respect the persistency.
Yeah, dude.
Jacob.
Yeah, dude. But John Michael, who comments occasionally, pretty cool. Him commented some more stuff about the Eagles backing the shit out of the Commanders this year. But he said AJ Brown will outplay Terry McLaurin this year. Book it. What are your thoughts on AJ Brown before we call it a close?
I don't think it's AJ Brown as much as I worry about Jalen Hurts. And I'm really high on the Eagles, but I still wonder about Jalen Hurts' passing ability. His rushing ability is some of the best out of any quarterback in the league. But is that Kyle Slaughter? Is that who that is? Jeez, former Viking quarterback.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys see AJ Brown getting 1,000 yards?
I do. Do
you think him or Devontae Smith is more likely to get 1,000?
I think it's AJ Brown, and it's not even close. Oh, Mitch. Mitch said Devontae.
Is AJ Brown still a top 5 receiver?
Of course not.
He is not a top.
Let's not get silly.
He is not a top. He's like top 10 receiver, but his talents do not match what Hurts can do at all. So I think that Devontae Smith is going to outperform him just by a little bit because I don't think Hurts has that accuracy on the deep ball that A.J. Brown kind of requires.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It gives me T.O. vibes, man, because kind of built like T.O., like that size. I don't know. Like, it's him in an Eagles jersey. It's kind of weird. And also, we have new helmets this year. We have a black one. I don't think any of our teams have new helmets, but I have a new team. All my teams.
That is kind of embarrassing for the Jags to spend the most ever in a single offseason, and they didn't really bring in anybody of notability.
Mr. Kirk.
Still suck.
But yeah, so Zay Jones, I forgot. We shit on Zay Jones while you were on the last podcast when you weren't there.
Oh, I know. I listen. Hey, man, when he goes for 1,000 yards this year,
we got the receipts right here.
He goes. Oh my God, I would be.
If Zay Jones goes for 1,000 yards,
I'll get a Zay Jones tattoo.
I'll strip down to my underwear on the pod.
You guys should all get together and get me a Zay Jones jersey.
All right, we'll end it on that. So, football is back. We're super happy about that. Let's fucking go. Pod's going to be coming out consistently now because we're all getting hype. August is that month. And looking forward to a hell of a year. Can't wait. So, for all of us here at the Blitz Pod, we'll catch you later.